Welcome everyone to Weighing News. Today on the grand occasion of the Legal Metrology Day 2022, we have the Managing Director of Avery India, Mr. Basant Sandooja with us. Hello sir, how are you?
Hi Tanmay, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Nice to see you too, sir. So, sir, we would love if you could share your experience with us. So, I'll start off with one of the questions that is really essential for the weighing industry. Is that according to you, how has the industry progressed over the years, sir?
Yeah, I think it's a good question and a long history to this question. Weighing is a part and parcel of everyone's life for the last 200 years, from when even if the barter deal used to be there decades and centuries back, still the weighment was happening. And other day I was listening to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs Minister, who is Mr. Piyush Goyal, and one of the workshop which he had organized, and he referred to that weighing rules were there, or the legal metrology rules were there even at the time of Chanakya. You can see that how old weighing had been important, and that is why the weighing rules and the legal metrology rules were made. I will broadly start from the 80s, and I'll not go back to the 100 years old when even the stones were being used and those methods were being adopted for weighing, which were more rough and crude. Only thing which has progressed with the time is the accuracy, which has improved. In 1980s, the mechanical scales were there. It was more of the levers and the links which were being used, and it was not an electronic era, which you see it today. Then from mid 80s onwards, somewhere around 85, even Avery India introduced the electronic scales, and this was in line with the global improvement. When globally also the electronic scales were introduced in the that era. First phase of electronic scales were more of an hybrid scale. It was the display of an digital, which we called it through a DRO, digital readout units only. Then second phase was the full electronic scales, which came somewhere in the 90s. Then the next phase, which started from 2000 onward, this was more on the software automation. That was the first phase, and I will say that 2010 onwards, the next phase of the software, which are the advanced, or the second phase of the automation or integration or the centralization of the data, these phases took place. Then there is another side from the user side also, because development in any industry takes place as per the user's needs and wants. From user angle, if you see in India, the roads were not very good in the past. Vehicles were not in an organized sector. If I talk about long trailers, which is of 20 feet and 40 feet, these were totally disorganized. There were hardly one or two manufacturers of the vehicles, or if you talk about the normal vehicles, what you are use it are the 14 feet or even the longer one. These are all in the organized sector. It started coming from the year 2000 in a good condition, and accordingly the focus on compliance also increased. That also made the need of the weighing industry to go in that direction. If I talk about the weigh bridges, which we are heavily focusing upon, in weigh bridges, earlier we were designing the weigh bridges. When I'm talking about the structural part, it was for 50 to 60 ton DTA, which is dual tandem axle loads. And because vehicles were disorganized, the distance in between the axles was not standardized as per the standards. So we were forced to over-design it. But today the situation is improved. There are organized vehicles, organized trailers, the distance in between the axles, spacing of the distance, as well as the axles conditions have improved. Now we are designing the weigh bridges, both when it comes to the heavy duty for mining and all that, we design it for 50 ton DTA, but for other road conditions, we design it up to 32 ton DTA. So this certainly brings the economics as well as moves with the time. But even today, if I talk about the global standard of the weigh bridge, those are normally for 24 ton DTA. So this is how the industry has developed, both from the user side as well as the manufacturer side.
So, sir, as we know that Avery has always been the front runner in the industry. So what steps have Avery like, to be at par with whatever is happening. And also, since the digital era is just at its peak at this point, we're moving forward. So what is Avery doing to just stay the front runner of the industry, sir?
Yeah. It's a valid question. We being an old company, we need to make sure that if we have to survive in the market, we always need to keep on innovating our products as per the market need, as per the customer's need. That is what we have been doing it. And as on date, it has become further good, the emphasis from our parent company, which is an ITW. ITW acquired Avery India somewhere in 2008 and 2009. And ITW very strongly believes in innovation. One of the indicator which you will see, ITW has got overall 10,000 patents, live patents. That itself reflects that how much focus they give on the R&D and the innovation. In continuity and in line with that, Avery India has also been doing and bringing in the innovative products in the market. As I earlier said, the answer to your earlier question, that we introduced weighing scales in 1985, which is almost 35 years back. So as our phase also, first phase was that we simply moved into the analog load cells and then DRO, which is a digital readout. So then second phase, we have done the further advancement in terms of the digital tools, which is converting to the full-fledged digital load cells. In these type of digital load cells, the analog to digital converter becomes a part of the load cell itself. Today, we have gone to the further advance. We have got the ZT series of the digital load cells, which we can call it the third generation digital load cells. In these load cells, you will not need even a junction box. We can have a daisy chain type of connections in between the load cells, and which simplifies the whole structure. Now, in terms of the automation, we have further gone. We have simplified the bus architecture also. Even the indicators have become quite advanced. Earlier indicators were simply displaying the indicator weight part. Now indicators gives the output into the different forms. Our standard latest indicator, real interface, Ethernet interface, Modbus, Profibus, all those things are possible with the today's indicator directly. You don't need a PC in between. You don't need a junction box in between and all that. Similarly, in terms of the transfer of data, that is the another area where the digital tools have progressed quite well. Today, people want the centralized data not only into their own server cloud. So transfer of data is another important thing. The advance of the digital era in analog things, these things can be manipulated. You need to make sure that your weighing equipment should be foolproof. So from that angle, digital load cells again becomes important so that no can win. So today we have got the digital load cells in all areas, and these are practically, I'll say, the temper proof.
So, sir, these are the things that we have done, but is there any future plans or something that Avery is looking forward to, maybe 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, that or from the weighing industry that we can expect?
Yeah, I believe if you talk about the basic weighing method, this remains standard if we want accurate weighing. Now, when I say accurate weighing, these are the load cells. Load cells can go up to the very high accuracy. Just to give you an idea of the accuracy, there's one term called C1 to C3 to C5 to C6. The higher this grading is, for example, C6 is the highest one. I'm talking about the industrial weighing. C6 means 6,000 division. For example, if you have got 60,000 kg weights, or the weighbridge is meant for 60 ton, and you divide it by 6,000 division, you can get an 10 kg accuracy with this. Now, of course, if you talk about the smaller scales, retail scales, then these are even of the 10,000 class and 10,000 divisions accuracy load cells are also available and all that. And then there is a different technology, even the quartz technology is also there for the very high accuracy. But I'm restricting my discussions more to the weigh bridges, which is the prime in the industrial weighing. In case of weigh bridges, we manufacture and export the load cells up to 6,000 division, which is the highest as on date. Our load cells are approved by OEML and we export to the rest of the world. in line with that, if you talk about the scenario in India and even in many parts of the world, people are still using C1 or even maximum they use it C3 or C4 load cell. If I talk about C1, continuing with the same example of 60-ton weigh bridge, you divide it by 1,000, accuracy which can be sensed is only 60 kg. But some of the manufacturers, those who are not disciplined, those do not have the ethics, they confuse to the customer by saying that we will give you plus minus 10 kg accuracy with 1,000 division load cell. It is basically indicator. Yes, indicator you can even show 0.5 kg also, even for 110. It's a digital number of digits after the decimal which you have to display. But if the sensing is not accurate, you are really not getting accurate weight. So hence it is important that load cells of the highest standard should be available. Now you talk about the Indian industry. Yes, we have been leading it. Latest we have done some type of organization we have brought in, which is called the WEMA, Weighing Equipment Manufacturers Association, in which almost the top 12, 13 manufacturers which are in the industrial weighing, they are the members of this. One of the objective of this organization is also to how do we improve the weighing standards of the industry in India. So from that perspective, we are trying that how common specs or the minimum specs can be designed, wherein people should not use 1,000 kg because 1,000 division load cells will give you an accuracy of 60 tons in case of 60-ton weigh bridge, 60 kg only. Yeah, 60 kg only. So we are trying that minimum C3 or C4 load cell should become a minimum standard of the industry now. Of course, C6 is the best one which we have got. Even in India, we are now introducing it because people can't move right from C1 to C6 state to A1 intermediary stage, which becomes a common stage. So we are introducing a product even in that range of C3, C4 also. So every has progress on the core component. For example, the load cells, yes, we will have the total range in C3, C4 as well as the C6 class. Another component into the progression is the indicator. As I earlier said, we have been improving in the indicators also, not only simply as a display of the weight, we can have the output and output can be processed directly now. Another area in the progression is that we also do with the weighing in motion, for example, weighing in motion for rails. This is what we introduced in the mid-90s. And we have been the leading suppliers of weighing in motion for railways. Indian Railways does the weighing with our products, and it is directly hooked up with the railway board system. Now they do the invoicing of their freight charges on the basis of the output which they receive in their from our weigh bridges. So unmanned weighing system. Now unmanned weighing systems were introduced in India somewhere in year 2000. Again, we were the first one in that. The unmanned weighing system has got the two aspects. One, that manipulations can be avoided. Second, the labor can be minimized. From labor perspective, since in India the labor was cheap, unmanned weighing systems didn't pick up too much initially. When I say from year 2000 to 2010, but from 2010 onward, these have picked up very good. Today, people look forward for the unmanned weighing systems, and we are the today also we supply the latest unmanned weighing system, wherein we have introduced as a product called Smart Tower. Now this Smart Tower is a one tower which avoids even the weigh bridge room. It avoids the shabby poles on which you mounted the cameras or the sensors and whatnot. So this is the latest state-of-the-art unmanned weighing system which we have introduced. Our R&D center is recognized by the Government of India from 1985 onwards, because that was an era when there was a need of indigenization. On those days we were importing a lot, but the local production was not there. We have been involved in this, doing the localization of the things right from 1985 onwards, and then even today our R&D center is recognized. This is also in line with our parent company's philosophy, ITW. We very strongly believe in R&D and innovation. As I earlier said, we have got 10 patents in our credit.
Yes, sir. So, sir, now that we talk about digital era, we also talk about telecommunications and networking, and how has the application of telecommunications and networking influenced the weighing industry?
Yeah, as I earlier said, basic technology into the weighing will remain same. The next phase is that people are moving to the cloud. People are having the centralized data. People want that their business operation should work with irrespective of anything happening into the local units. And that is why the cloud is important. Transfer of data is important. Networking is important. And in line with that requirement of the industry, we have introduced many products, like as even in the unmanned system, our data can be transferred with the Wi-Fi equipment. We have done with the integration with the ERP and SAP system or any other ERP. In fact, depending on the different industry vertical, we have worked it out. For example, in textile industry, there is software called Now. So we have done the integration with that. The different industry verticals we have integrated with a different type of ERPs. As far as the data centralized is concerned, yes, we have done that part also, and we have worked and progressed quite a lot in that direction. As I said, SAIL is the one which is the Steel Authority of India is the one which is now we are working on that. So they have introduced the unmanned system on their different locations, and in the second phase they would like to have a centralized data. So there are a couple of industries, even in the textile industry, where we have done their centralization. For the 10 to 15 plants or more locations, they can have a centralized data at one place. Another thing, even on the smaller scale, for example, if someone has got a public weighbridge and the owner of the public weighbridge doesn't sit on that weighbridge and he wants the information every time, even in the organized sector, they want that any movement happens, they should get some information. In terms of the SMS and emails get generated, the moment any payment happens, that information gets passed on to the concerned person. Then in networking and telecommunication also helps in terms of knowing the health status of the products, health state of the weighing product. If it is a weighbridge, how can you get the health status at a remote location? And remote surveillance also. If you want to monitor some 17 locations sitting at your head office, so that is also possible, the remote surveillance. So networking and telecommunication has become an integral part of the weighing industry also.
Yes, sir. And sir, what what is the impact of all these trends like digitization, network system, artificial intelligence on the legal framework and the laws pertaining to measurement in general, weighing in particular? So, if you can throw some light on that.
I will say that till now, if you talk about the legal metrology, they have not upgraded themselves with the time. As I said, from our platform called WEMA, we have approached to the government authority many times. It took a lot of time. Good international agencies like us, those who are working on what type of improvements can be done in terms of the Legal Metrology Act. And this is in part of the initiative of the government, which is the ease of doing business. So some developments are happening, but I will say it is slow. Why? Because a Legal Metrology Act, the formation part is the federal government or the central government part. Implementation is with the state government. So the coordination in between the central government and the state government is a difficult task. Even for doing a change into the Legal Metrology Act, they need to make sure that all state governments are at the same platform as the center thinks of. So that is a very cumbersome process, which I will say that center is struggling. As on date, the central government looks to have the will for working in that direction. The minister is really serious in that part. He had been organizing the various workshops. Let us hope if that happens, then we can expect that, yes, some guidelines, even in terms of the networking and all that are there. But presently in the Legal Metrology Act, nothing like on the networking and all those steps are not specified. And it may not be required also. The purpose of legal metrology is that each consumer should get the right weight. That is what is important. Right measurement. That is what is important. But networking and all that, this doesn't have too much of the link with the Legal Metrology Act. So some developments are happening. but I will say it is slow. Why? Because a legal metrology act, the formation part is the federal government or the central government part. Implementation is with the state governments. So the coordination in between the central government and the state government is a difficult task. Even for doing a change into the Legal Metrology Act, they need to make sure that all state governments are at the same platform as the center thinks of. So that is a very cumbersome process, which I will say that center is struggling. As on date, the central government looks to have the will for working in that direction. The minister is really serious in that part. He had been organizing the various workshops. Let us hope if that happens, then we can expect that, yes, some guidelines, even in terms of the networking and all that are there. But presently in the Legal Metrology Act, nothing like on the networking and all those steps are not specified. And it may not be required also. The purpose of legal metrology is that each consumer should get the right weight. That is what is important. Right measurement. That is what is important. But networking and all that, this doesn't have any too much of the link with the Legal Metrology Act.
So, sir, how do you see the future now that we have almost came to the end of the interview? The final question would be, as a visionary, how do you see the future of the public beverages in India?
I think the future is, as I was talking about, the ease of doing business becomes easy. Similarly, I will say that ease of payments and their records and the connectivity with the stores, this all should become streamlined operation. So gone are the days when people will note down on a piece of a register that how many payments have taken places and what. And now, for example, you take the case example of a cement industry. Maybe there is a movement of 700 to 800 trucks and lorries every day. So this is an cumbersome project handling those 800 trucks, both for incoming material as well as for the outgoing material. This is an area where the automation is taking place now. They can have the complete control right from the parking of the lorries outside the gate, right from movements of the lorries from outside to inside, recording the information of the lorries and recording the information on the empty trucks or the tear weight, then loading the material or unloading the material depending on the case, and then having the final weight of the material, which is either in the incoming stage or in the outgoing stage. And then connectivity with their ERP systems and with the remote surveillance and controls. This goes information into through the cloud on the head office system, where the corporates can have the total information on immediately basis. That is what is there. And similarly, earlier, as far as the trucks are concerned, their numbers were being noted. Now, the introduction of the RFID cards, introduction of the ultra high frequency cards, ANPR, these are the tools which are being used, wherein you don't have to write it down. The system will automatically sense them and the vehicle entry can take place. So this reduces the manpower hours, this reduces the timing. Similarly, if I talk about now, the highways are being made in public-private partnership. There also you have seen it, the toll plazas, where the overloaded vehicles need to be screened out and doesn't take time. If there is any penalty to be decided for the overloaded vehicles, that should be paid it automatically. These are the areas where automation will take place. Next phase of if I talk about the vision, I can see it, for example, if the one truck has started from a small unit or a big unit, and it is going for the export, the whole consignment, either it is a containerized or it is a non-containerized stuff. Before it reaches to the seaport, the information should be there beforehand. In that case, the seaport authorities will have the information, so and so vehicle is coming containing so and so material, so that the waiting period sometimes, which is 1 day or 2 day outside, that period can be reduced. And this saves a lot of money for the exporters also, and even for the government also, it becomes easy. If you have to grow and if you have to grow our economy to 5 times, then we need to make sure that on each stage where the time is being consumed, that should be minimized. So weighing is also an important feature in that, and this way we can reduce that time.
that I think that we have a long way to go, and I think we're progressing in that direction. And the things that you have mentioned, I'm really sure that that is exactly the direction that we'll take, and I see a bright future ahead of us.
I would also like to add in that, for example, with the introduction of this automation, few malpractices which happens, those can be avoided. Auto billings can be done. You can even control the theft or the pilferage. One example I can give you on Indian Railways, when NTPC gets an coal from the coal plants, I heard it and I understand they standard plan that 3 to 4% of the pilferage will be there, and they account for it. Imagine 3 to 4%. And if we have got an automatic system which can sense it, the weight of the train wing, and if we take the weight at 4 intermittent locations, it can sense where the pilferage takes place, and then the controls can be done. So this automation recovers its cost automatically and makes the life simple.
I mean, 3 to 4% is really a big amount considering the kind of coal shortages that we already have in the country. Right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I really hope that is exactly that the automation comes as soon as possible before we run out of coal, especially for NTPC. But yes, so this has been a really informative session, and thank you so much for your time, sir. And I really hope that our viewers, if you if you really like the content that we put out, please reach out to us so we can. It really helps us to curate better content for you. So thank you so much for being with us, sir.
Thanks, Tanmay. It was my pleasure too. And I hope that this brings some awareness into your viewers and the viewers of this interview. And if they have got any questions, they can reach back to the Avery India Limited.
Definitely, sir.